Today, we exist in a fractured information landscape. An event occurs, and our screens are flooded with headlines and viral posts within moments. It has become increasingly complex to distinguish fact from fiction, journalism from propaganda. This is the new reality of the information crisis. To navigate this territory, we must first understand the language of deception. The term fake news is often used as a catch-all, but it is imprecise. A more useful distinction lies between misinformation, false information spread without malicious intent, and disinformation, which is deliberately fabricated and disseminated to mislead, manipulate, and achieve a specific political or financial goal. Historically, fake news often referred to satire or parody, content designed to entertain through humor. However, recently, the phrase has been more broadly, systematically weaponized. It is now frequently used by political actors not to identify falsehoods, but as a linguistic tool to discredit legitimate journalism and dismiss any reporting that challenges someone's narrative, regardless of its factual basis. This weaponization of the term is more than just a political tactic. It is a core strategy of modern disinformation. The objective is not merely to promote a single lie, but to degrade the entire information ecosystem. By attacking the credibility of fact-based institutions, manipulators foster a pervasive cynicism about the possibility of objective truth. This creates a state of post-truth, an environment where objective facts become less influential in shaping public opinion than appeals to emotion and personal belief. A result is a profound and dangerous erosion of public trust. Declining confidence in traditional media and expert knowledge has created a vacuum, a fertile ground where alternative and often obscure sources of information can appear authoritative and credible. The ultimate danger is not that a single lie is believed, but that eventually nothing becomes believable, leaving the public confused, apathetic, and vulnerable to manipulation. A lie once born is fragile. To survive, it needs the appearance of credibility. One of the most effective mechanisms for laundering a falsehood into a widely accepted fact is a phenomenon known as circular reporting. Circular reporting, or false confirmation, is a situation where a piece of information appears to come from multiple independent sources, but in reality originates from only one. It creates a powerful illusion of corroboration. The process often begins with a single publication reporting a falsehood. Other outlets, driven by the demand for speed, may reprint the story, citing the original source. As the story spreads, the sheer volume of repetition gives it an air of authority. Eventually, even the original outlet might see the story reported elsewhere and treat it as confirmed, completing the circle and cementing the misinformation into the public consciousness. In the digital age, this cycle has been dangerously accelerated. User-generated platforms like Wikipedia have become unwitting participants. An unverified claim can be added to a wiki page, then cited in a hastily written online article. That article is then added back to the wiki page as a source, effectively laundering the original falsehood and making it difficult to debunk. Historically, news with global reach came from a few primary sources, with the resources for verification. But the modern media landscape prioritizes speed and engagement over accuracy. A lie can now, as the saying goes, travel halfway around the world, while the truth is putting on its shoes. The Internet's architecture has created the ideal conditions for circular reporting to thrive, transforming what was once a problem of sloppy journalism into an industrial-scale tool for disinformation. While words can deceive, images manipulate on a more primal, emotional level. The strategic selection of a single photograph, the framing of an event, can fundamentally alter its narrative before a single word is read. Framing is the process of selecting, emphasizing, and excluding elements of reality to construct a specific intended meaning. In photojournalism, the choice of lens, angle, and moment can transform protesters into either activists or rioters, police into either protectors or oppressors. This technique has been used to perpetuate harmful stereotypes. Studies have shown a disproportionate media tendency to depict certain minority groups in contexts of crime or poverty, activating and reinforcing negative biases in the viewer's mind. This form of manipulation is a type of invisible propaganda because it operates on an emotional, precognitive level. An image can evoke powerful feelings of fear, anger, or empathy, and this emotional response often precedes and overrides rational analysis. Just as potent as the biased image is the biased silence. What is not said, what is strategically omitted from a report, can be more deceptive than an outright lie. Bias by omission is the choice to exclude facts, context, or entire perspectives from a story. This creates a skewed reality, guiding the audience toward a predetermined conclusion while maintaining a facade of factual accuracy. For example, a report might highlight a company's large charitable donation, but omit any mention of a recent environmental scandal involving the same company. A story might detail a politician's compelling speech, but omit the fact that the crowd was small and unenthusiastic. In each case, every word reported could be technically accurate. Yet the reports present a deeply misleading narrative by strategically withholding critical information. This tactic is the perfect propaganda tool for an era of low trust. It allows a manipulator to shape a story in a way immune to traditional fact-checking. One cannot debunk information that the audience was never given in the first place. The manipulator controls the universe of the story, making their conclusion seem like the only logical one. In 2016, the techniques of psychological targeting, data exploitation, and invisible manipulation converged in a scandal. It was orchestrated by a secretive data analytics firm, Cambridge Analytica. The operation began with a seemingly innocuous personality quiz app on Facebook called This Is Your Digital Life. Hundreds of thousands of users were paid to take the test. However, through Facebook's permissive policies at the time, the app didn't just collect the data of the test takers. It scraped the personal data of their entire network of friends, without their knowledge or consent. In total, the private information of up to 87 million Facebook profiles was harvested. This trove of data was the raw material for what whistleblower Christopher Wiley would later call a psychological warfare tool. Cambridge Analytica combined the harvested Facebook data with voter records and consumer data to build detailed psychographic profiles of millions of American voters. They used models based on the Big Five personality traits: openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism to predict individual behavior. This allowed political campaigns, including Donald Trump's 2016 presidential run, to engage in hyper-targeted messaging on an unprecedented scale. The goal was not mass communication, but mass personalization. A voter identified as highly neurotic and concerned about security might see dark, fear-based ads. A disillusioned progressive might be targeted with ads designed not to convert them, but to discourage them from voting for their party's candidate. This was a new form of invisible propaganda. Because these ads were micro-targeted, they were not subject to public debate or scrutiny by the press. As one insider revealed, the moment you think it's propaganda, it has failed. The goal is for the manipulation to happen without the target ever knowing. In 2018, investigations by Channel 4 News exposed the scheme. The Delete Facebook movement went viral, and billions were wiped from Facebook's market value. The scandal resulted in a record $5 billion fine for Facebook from the Federal Trade Commission for privacy violations. Crucially, the scandal revealed that this was not a data breach in the sense of a hack. No systems were infiltrated. Instead, this was a case of Facebook systems working precisely as they were designed, to extract and allow the exploitation of user data for profit. The crisis of disinformation does not exist in a vacuum. It is unfolding against a global assault on the institution designed to counter it, a free and independent press. Every year, the organization Reporters Without Borders, or RSF, compiles the World Press Freedom Index, a comprehensive assessment of the state of journalism in 180 countries. It evaluates the environment for journalists based on 5 key indicators: political context, legal framework, economic context, socio-cultural environment, and physical safety. The findings from the 2025 index are alarming. For the first time, RSF has classified the state of press freedom globally as being in a difficult situation. The most precipitous decline is in the economic indicator, which has fallen to an unprecedented critical low. This economic fragility is now a leading threat to press freedom worldwide. When news organizations are financially strained, they are drawn into a race for audience engagement at the expense of quality and investigative reporting. In 2025, 42 countries were in the severe category. The 2025 report puts Austria at 22nd place and describes the situation as, in Austria, press freedom has been weakened significantly as a result of a considerable structural change in the public sphere, gross failures in media funding, and attempts by some politicians to control or delegitimize the media, which have been severely weakened by a lack of staff. This economic crisis creates the information vacuum that disinformation is designed to fill. A weakened press is less able to hold power to account, less able to fund costly investigations, and more susceptible to capture by corporate or political interests. Beyond economic pressure, journalists face a more direct and dangerous threat: violence. The work of reporting the truth has become a perilous profession. The statistics are stark. According to the UN, 85% of journalist killings worldwide remain judicially unresolved. It is reported that in 2024 alone, 124 journalists were killed. The threats form a spectrum of intimidation, from online harassment and surveillance to physical attacks, and ultimately murder. This sustained campaign of violence and intimidation is designed to achieve one goal: silence. This climate of fear leads directly to the most insidious form of censorship: self-censorship. It is a compromise born of fear, where journalists and news organizations, without any official directive, begin to avoid sensitive topics. They tone down controversial stories or abandon them altogether, afraid of losing their jobs, facing financial ruin from lawsuits or endangering their lives. The most effective censorship is the creation of an environment so hostile that journalists become their own censors. This soft censorship is deniable, invisible, and devastatingly effective. The public remains unaware of the stories that are never told, the questions that are never asked, and the truths that are never brought to light. It allows powerful interests to operate in darkness, fundamentally undermining the democratic accountability that a free press is meant to ensure. The information crisis is not a simple problem of lies versus truth. It is a systemic failure of trust, enabled by technology that prioritizes engagement over accuracy, powered by the inherent biases of human psychology, and deliberately exploited by political and economic actors. There are no easy solutions, but the first step is to recognize the nature of the challenge. We must learn to navigate this new landscape with a critical eye, not only for the information we consume, but for the vulnerabilities within ourselves. We have probably experienced how our own minds can be turned against us, how our desire to be right can overpower our search for the truth. How can we become more aware of our own biases when we consume information? What responsibility do social media platforms have to redesign their systems for truth instead of engagement? And what is our responsibility in how we use them? What is the actual cost to our society when a story is never told? And how can we support the journalism that is brave enough to hold power to account? The future of our shared reality may depend on our answers.